Yeah, we're going to talk about some Ngrx, talk about Brandon Roberts and his involvement in the space, in the Angular space. Should probably mention Angular Unfiltered too as well, your podcast. But Brandon, you want to give yourself an intro before I finish the intro for you?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Brandon Roberts. I work as an architect at Narwhal. I also am the maintainer on the Ngrx project, as you mentioned. Um, you can follow me on Twitter at Brandon T. Roberts. You got to get those plugs out there. My gift game is strong on Twitter. I'll say that up front. So I'll be slinging gifts at your face if you're into that sort of thing. So you can definitely follow me there. And I also stream on Twitch also, which is we have a good time there too.
Yeah, and yeah, you could, folks, you can actually Jason's in there. Jason can drop your Twitch for everybody so they can follow it. But yeah, we've been talking about open source and talking about people's their story, open source story. So I'm curious of like, how'd you get involved in Ngrx?
Yeah, so before I started working on Ngrx, I had done some minor open source contributions here and there. But the Ngrx project, the founder of the project's name is Rob Wormald, and he developed it as a project similar to what Redux is in the React ecosystem. So at a previous job, we were working on a project that was similar to Ngrx Store at the time, but it wasn't open source. So it was just an internal thing that we kind of spun up to help us manage state in Angular apps. Well, this was back when it was Angular 2. So we kept using that project internally a little while. And then we saw that the Ngrx Store project that came along, and me and my friend Mike decided that we wanted to contribute to that project because it helped everyone in the Angular ecosystem, because Angular doesn't necessarily have a baked in state management solution outside of like using services and things, which is probably similar to what AngularJS was or has. So we started contributing to that project or contributed to the Ngrx project, and mainly started out as like docs and minor code changes and trying to keep the project up to date with the Angular framework itself. And so we started doing that. Then we had more time, or I guess we dedicated more time to contributing to the project. So Rob ended up asking us if we wanted to take a more active role in contributing. And of course, I was all for that because I always wanted to contribute more to open source. So we started contributing and ended up taking the bulk of the work of the project and becoming maintainers of the project. And it's been almost, I guess, 5 years now since I actively got started in the project until now.
Wow.
Helping maintain updates and releases and new features, and kind of helping the framework move along, because it's pretty much probably the most used like state management framework in the Angular ecosystem right now.
Yeah, and like when I think of like RxJS and like reactive state management, like I think of Angular. Like I feel like Angular was like the first to sort of jump on the reactive bandwagon, because I know Redux isn't quite fully reactive, which honestly I don't even know what the what the difference is. So I look at RxJS.
Ngrx is basically a smashing of those two things together.
Got it.
Of ng for Angular and then Rx for RxJS. But what Store started out as is like the Redux pattern, but using observables, or because like you said, Redux itself is a very like minimal API. You pretty much can get like state and use callbacks or when you're subscribing to state that way. And the store builds on top of that, but gives you observable APIs that you can use to subscribe to in your Angular components or services, or however you use RxJS within your application to kind of manage the state of a feature or shared state that's across the entire app. So like I said, it combines, it provides a way to manage state in Angular using things that are provided by Angular, like RxJS. Angular provides a lot of those APIs out of the box, or it has RxJS like baked into the framework. So we're leveraging some of those existing like concepts as far as managing state there.
I used to use Redux back in the day when it first came out with React, and we used to use all these React middlewares to make it observable. So I forgot whatever the pattern was or the library you had to add for making it
Yeah, I
observable.
think it was there's a couple of ones out there, I believe, but there's like Redux Sagas
Yeah,
was
that's right.
one, and Redux Observable is another one that kind of models that kind of subscribing to the action stream and the store and being able to do side effects with that. And one of our libraries, Ngrx Effects, is very similar to Redux Observable if you're looking for something that's comparative to that. But yeah, we initially had a version of Redux Sagas in the Ngrx platform, but it was a little harder to understand and cause some confusion there. So we ended up moving away from that and introducing Ngrx Effects, which is like a side effect model for the store. So what effects do is listen to the stream, all the dispatch actions that you dispatch from the store, and you can perform some side effects or some other tasks based on those streams of actions, and then turn those into new actions or perform just side effects on those. So yeah, effects was a way to basically like pump up the event sourcing that you do in when you're dispatching actions, or like I said, to react to streams that may not be an observable of actions. It may just be an observable of, click events or something that you want to listen to and react to, just to keep that kind of that cycle going.
I'm really interested in like your interaction with the project itself. So you'd mentioned that I think it was Rob you had mentioned sort of guided you into the project.
Yeah, Rob has started the project, and except me and my friend Mike, which our team has grown since then. But yeah, you can see some of that's pretty much those top four people right there. Some of the main part of the main team there. Me, Mike, Alex, Tim, and there's a few other people also. We have a bunch of contributors. I'll throw Wes in there too. But a lot of the core team is there. Contributors are there. But
Nice.
yeah, we have a good team of people that provide ideas and feedback. And but my role, like these days as a maintainer, is to maintain the health of the project, make sure that we aren't getting behind on issues, and still put ideas out there of things that we want to discuss as a team, or like when Angular has new releases every 6 months, so we try to stay on that track of making sure that we're releasing along with them, so that people will stay up to date. And also trying to, like I said, put ideas out there, or packages or libraries that we want to add that would add to creating more reactive libraries for the Angular ecosystem.
Excellent.
Yeah, but most of them are, I guess pretty much all of them are focused on managing state in that way.
Sounds cool, but also sounds like quite a heavy lift. So like, I see your name all over the place here. I also see like,
Yeah.
and the list of like, I'm not sure, it's not like a competition here, but I see your name here as like the top contributor too as well. So how do you balance? Because like your day job is at Narwhal, correct?
Yes. My day job's at Narwhal, where we help teams build with Angular and use Ngrx. So I actually get to use the thing that I work on and apply it to, actual projects. So we get to take some of that feedback and use it that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have spent a lot of time, and energy on the project, which if you're just looking at contributor numbers alone, yeah, you can see that. But yeah, it's a balance. And I think I'm doing better these days about not eating up so much of my time on the project. because it's a more mature project now,
Yeah.
and I don't have to do as much hand holding these days. But what I try to do these days is try to keep people unblocked, especially people who want other people on the team if they're trying to get something done, or and try to get more people to contribute to the project. Because that's ultimately what I want, is for us to have more open source libraries in the ecosystem itself, and just in the platform in general, so that other people can contribute, because we get a lot of contributors we get contributions from a lot of different places, a lot of different people, which is great, whether it be docs, testing, or code, or anything else. So, and I always try to nudge people to contribute to it, because the more people we have, the more we can do with the project. So that's what I do. That's what I do mainly as a maintainer these days, is try to make sure we're taking care of the project and ideas, and try to get more people to contribute.
Awesome. And then, so how do you sort of manage the inbound issues, contributions? So like, it looks like you got 65 issues sitting here, which is actually, for a mature project, it seems pretty good.
Yeah, we've and I can't take credit for this myself, but me and the other folks on the team have definitely invested time in trying to keep those numbers low. And some of the issues are, some of them have been out there for a while. Some of them are ideas, and because we mainly use this as our like public facing way of tracking things. So some of them are ideas, some of them are issues that have just been there for a while. They're not. Some of them are, of course, some of them are bugs, but they aren't things that will prevent you from like using the framework. So it's a balance of trying to carve out the time to fix the things that, would actually cause somebody's application to break, versus things that people are considered like nice to have, or ideas that people will want to add to the framework that we have to like take into consideration. Because at the end of the day, we still have to manage the project after if there are no contributors, there's still us. So we still have to take that into account.
Yeah. Yeah, which is great. And I was going to mention a flex of you building the thing that you're selling to to the clients. And this is the best feature out there. And also, I wrote it.
Yeah, it's always interesting when you get to work on something. There we go with the flex. Always interesting when you get to, like, you go on a project that people are using the thing that you wrote, and then you get that they ask you questions, and I'm like, yeah, I pretty much I can get an answer for you there. Or but I think the better part about it is that if we have docs or things that are already there, then I can say, okay, yes, I run into this before. We've documented this so that other people don't run into the same issue, or maybe people that haven't come across that particular area of the docs yet, or some of those like subtle things that people want to make sure that they get right when they're using it. So definitely gives me an opportunity to help others that are using the project.
Yeah, indeed. I'm curious though. So you work on open source as part of your job. So like your company makes time for that, or you make time for that within your day job to make sure that that happens and accomplished. But how do you balance like that work and like not make it bleed into like your weekend or your evenings or?
Well, I guess maybe I should be a little clear. All the work that we still do on the Ngrx project is is outside of work time. It's
Okay, gotcha.
nights and weekends. My where I work, we do have an open source project there that we can contribute to on work time. But as far as the Ngrx project itself, it is still like a completely separate thing where
gotcha.
it's still a completely separate thing where it's nights and weekends and that. So I'm still doing the the weekend contributor, like everyone else is doing open
Weekend
source
hustle.
on that one. Yeah. But yeah, I would like to, if and this is part of, I guess, why like looking at GitHub sponsors and things like that is to maybe provide an opportunity where I could take some of that work time and do that. So it wouldn't be something that I would necessarily have to always have to do on nights and weekends. So yeah.
Yeah, and you got quite a bit of sponsors too as well, which is good to see.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely, of course, I'll give a shout out to you because you were the one, I think the first one that was in the list when I put it out there, or when I actually got approved and everything. So like I said, it's more about getting that time back than it is about like the money part of it. Like I said, if I could take a portion of my work week and do open source stuff, then I would definitely enjoy doing that. Not because I enjoy doing it anyway, but it's like doing that on top of a full work week at this point is more challenging, I guess I would say these days.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm curious, with your work in open source, and you've also, and what's up, Zach? Welcome in. How has it impacted your career? And like, have you've done a bit of speaking too as well? Like, has it been beneficial to your career and what you've accomplished?
Yeah, definitely. So I didn't do any like conference speaking, pretty much till I got in the Angular ecosystem. And this probably about 4 or 5 years ago now, when the NGConf, which is like one of the biggest Angular conferences that they have in Salt Lake City every year. And one of the organizers that invited me to give a talk there. And this was before I got involved with Ngrx and everything else, but it was my first speaking opportunity, and I was scared to death, and I practiced so much for it. But it was something something I enjoy very much, and I've continued to do. And doing that, along with working on the project, has opened a lot of doors for me personally. From, like I said, being like recognized as a person in the Angular community, and Google has a GDE program, which is a Google Developer Expert. I'm a part of that program also through the work that I've done in open source. And quick plug to the Google open source team. They recently sent me like an open source care package, basically.
Yeah, I've been seeing those tweets. Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, open source care package. So, and even like being able to work where I work now, that opportunity is there, or it's because of the stuff that I've done in open source and kind of being out there and giving talks, and always been willing to help people in that way. So I think all those together have in part got me where I am today.
Yeah, and it pays to it pays apparently with sponsors, but no, it's great to be connected and part of communities, and like that's actually the first time in this event that the Google Developer Expert has been brought up, and also the open source stuff that Google's been investing in. Like at Google, you have an opportunity as an employee to give bonuses out to community members. Which is also huge, like just being a part of projects that are impacting Google's open source. Their ecosystem.
I was able to. I think it was last year. I got one of those also. I think one of my friends who I think is on the team now, Alex, nominated me for that, and I ended up getting that like an open source bonus, which was, like I said, it's more about being recognized in the amount of money there. So, but it's definitely a great honor that I was appreciative of.
Yeah, it's a great initiative, and I love these open source offices. Like Facebook's got one, Google's got one, a couple other companies have got open source offices. Microsoft's got one as well, and able to reinvest, just like shareholders, the same way you do it like with stocks, you reinvest your profits. But they're able to reinvest into the quote unquote profit they get from open source itself, which I wanted to bring up real quick. Is like in regards to community, you run a podcast called Angular Unfiltered as well.
Yep. Yep, Angular Unfiltered. It's Fridays. It's right now. I'm doing them every other Friday at 1:30 p.m. Central Time. So you can check that out on my blog there, and on my Twitch at Brandon T Roberts. You can follow me there. But yeah, the Angular Unfiltered was something I started like as a way to talk to people in the Angular community and to get more visibility to some people who don't come on or aren't necessarily giving talks or doing a lot more being out there on like social media that still want to at least have a casual conversation about the Angular ecosystem. And so I got to plug that if you're in the Angular community and you want to come on the show and talk some Angular, it's casual. It's only 30 minutes or so. We can definitely get something on the books.
Excellent. Yeah. I love seeing that too as well. And the initiatives that folks like, to be very clear, like you could do your own thing if you wanted to do everybody listening, if you want to get involved in open source or you want to get involved in community. A lot of times folks assume green squares is what matters. And like, I just want to say like contributions to code is great. But if you can contribute in the awareness of a project, contribute into community by having space for folks who are giving talks or aren't doing that you aren't seeing up front, but give that space to them. Like what I'm doing here, what you're doing with Angular Unfiltered, like that's opportunity. And we talked to Anthony yesterday, who's a bootcamp student. Same thing. Like the amount of contribution and code that he can provide, just being newer within programming, isn't as impactful code wise. But yeah, what I'm getting at is that he does a lot of stuff in the community and he's building a lot of awareness for his project, which is Redwood.js. But yeah, the worst devs in the chat. Yeah. Sponsorship too as well. Like being able to like set that up and get people like, I guess, give them the value that I guess they deserve. And like if it's value as in a platform to get people to speak in your own little circle and ecosystem, like definitely do it.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I have been afforded a lot of opportunities because of like the work that I've done and where I am now. So it's only right that I try to do that for others who are maybe just starting out. Like even if I was in some other ecosystem, I would still be doing the same thing, trying to reach those who I can and help those who I can, even people I don't know really or know directly. So it's always, I've said this a few times, but it's always like contributing to open source has always paid more back to me than, what I've given into it. And that the trend keeps going, and I'll continue to do it. Like I said, if I could work in full-time open source, I don't even know what that looks like because I haven't seen anybody do it yet. Well, yeah. I've seen a few people do it. But if I could do that and spend time doing that, then I would definitely like to explore that avenue. And I guess that's my inner developer advocate wanting to coming out there, because that's always been something I've been wanting to get into.
Yeah, and there's plenty of opportunities out there. So I'm just looking at Kurt, who's in the chat, who works at Apollo. They're helping to contribute to their ecosystem in the GraphQL space, and like I know Netlify is also, they're doing a great job in onboarding. Actually, they had I'll call out for an Angular expert too as well recently. I don't know where they're at with that for developer experience, which is their developer relations team.
Yeah, I think one person that I know, Tara, she I know she worked at Netlify. I don't know if she still works there now, but I know she did as a Angular developer experience engineer, I believe.
Yeah. And honestly, like I personally like, like everybody else who watches the stream, they know I like talking and I like, getting out there and talking about Beyonce and hip hop and stuff like that. And like bringing what's really cool about open source, that you can bring your full self to it. So like who you are and what you bring along for the ride, like you can be yourself as long as you're not obstructing other people's spaces. Like you want to make sure you're kind and respectful. Yeah. But I love it. Like one of the things I loved about open source, and like I have my story on my YouTube as well, which If I'm not flexing, like, what am I doing at this point? But let me drop my
There you
YouTube
go.
link where I actually talked about my story of how I contribute to open source. And that was at a time when I was transitioning from like a sales corporate role where I wasn't online. I wasn't on Twitter. I wasn't sharing like what I was doing outside of like sandwiches I ate. And I think once I started really getting active on Twitter and active on writing a blog post, that's really where I saw the shift.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'll say that that is something that I have done over time is be more of my full self on Twitter. Because I guess when I first got into open source or when I was trying to contribute in the beginning, I was like, you got to be. I got to be perfect. I got to be robot guy. I got to know all the things and be able to do all of that. But at some point, man, I guess I got a little more relaxed in open source because I was more comfortable with it and I could bring more of my like full self to Twitter. And like I said, now you wouldn't see me throwing gifs at people's gifs at people's face on Twitter all day when I get the chance. But
Your gift game is pretty strong. I'd have to admit, and like your the gifts that you pull out are pretty deep too. Is like if you, yeah, I think you if you aren't following Brandon on Twitter, you need to follow Brandon on Twitter.
there you go. Yeah, I put a lot of thought into those gifts. I think that's why they hit people where they are, which is which is why I think they land pretty good most of the time.
Yeah, I don't know if I can. I don't even know what the context of this tweet is.
So yeah, so you gotta go. So yeah, my friend Luke he's sharing pics of his
Of his ribs, yeah.
ribs that he did, and I was like, hey, we're in the same state, we don't live too far away from each other, holla at your boy. So, but
Excellent.
yeah, those seems to be the ones that definitely get people the most. Where it's something that, like, especially if I know that person a little more than I know that person maybe like a little more personally, then I'll tweet something that definitely hits them more directly than the random gifts for responses and stuff or reactions.
Worth having a nice content strategy. I tend to like. I like to. I'm a bit. I got a bit of sarcasm, but also I'm pretty witty when it comes to Twitter. So I'll just come in hot with like something off the wall, and this be like the first person to reply to something that I know is going to blow up, and I'll just as the tweet's blowing up, you see my tweet. That's
Yeah.
relevant.
I
But
see. Okay. I see what you did.
my
I see
content
what you're
strategy.
doing now.
Yeah, you got to
You gotta
grow.
get that. You gotta get that one did is going to get 500 likes, and then like right under that one, they're going to see yours.
Yeah,
With that you just reply a tweet with like the eyes or the or the fire tweet under that.
yeah, and then you drop the mixtape after that once it blows up.
That's right. You got to drop the mixtape. You got to drop your Instagram, whatever. I haven't had one that's blown up that big, but I'm definitely got it queued up or something I'm gonna drop whenever that happens.
Yeah, the SoundCloud is what Kurt just dropped in the chat too as well. I had one that was blowing up last week, and it was around PRs, but the Bachelorette. So everybody contributed the same issue, and then whoever has the best the best code gets to win the rose. Which actually I want to work on that GitHub action this weekend. We'll see if I get to it. But yeah, basically bait out and say, hey, everybody compete to do this. But yeah, so
Yeah, the random tweets out of the blue about developer stuff are like always the best, and I try to tweet those out when they come to mind. I tweeted one out that about when you get like randomly put into a Slack message, and it was like a gift from like Baby Boy where they're like rolling down the window about to roll up on him. So just random stuff like that, I think just adds a little more fun to it.
yeah, and speaking of gifts, thanks for the follows, Kfon. Not sure if I got that one, and I'm not even sure. Askerybot, appreciate that. So yeah, with that being said, any last words of wisdom for folks who want to get involved in open source and grow their career doing it?
Yeah, my advice would just be to like dive in. Like I think most people's initial open source journey is pretty similar. Like you go to a project that you want to work on or something that interests you and you want to contribute something back, and you spend 3 hours trying to fix something and then you open a PR, and then you wonder if they're going to accept it or not. But do it anyway. Learning how to operate in open source gives you a lot more visibility. And of course, if you're on Twitter or other social media, GitHub, like I say, it gives you visibility. And also there's like a ton of contributions that are waiting out there for people to have or for that they want you to do. And it helps you grow, I think, as a developer to look at other people's code and seeing how you can operate within another person's code base and make changes to it, like to make it better. So there's always that hesitation of, well, I don't know Git or all that well, or what's up? Well, like take it as an opportunity to learn. And the best open source projects out there, and this is something that I try to do also, is to try to encourage people to contribute and help those people who need help contributing, who may be first-time contributors. Because I know in our project, and even in our issues, we have a checkbox that says, do you want to contribute to PR? And if you do, we will help you if you need help. So
that's genius. You know, it's funny because you told me about that a while ago, and I completely forgot about that. But actually having the checkbox of saying, thanks for opening an issue, but also do you want someone to reach out and like walk you through this? I need to add that to my issue template.
Yeah, because it definitely has helped, because usually people file an issue and then they just like bounce or whatever. But it's like, if we know that you're filing this issue and you want to contribute to PR to fix it, and even if you know what you're doing or you don't necessarily know what you're doing, then that's still like your foot in the door, and we can contact you directly then, like actually assign you to the issue and then help you out that way. So we kind of open up that conversation like right there from the beginning. And if you don't want to open a PR, that's fine. And somebody else will come through and say they want to open a PR, which always helps us out and the person doing it. So.
Excellent. Yeah. So thanks for taking the time out of your day and chatting with us, Brandon. Folks, follow Brandon on Twitch. He's runs a podcast that he streams here as well called Angular Unfiltered. Does a lot of Ngrx stuff. So if you want to talk reactive programming and talk about the store, definitely hit him up.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and thanks for having me on.